Got a lot of interesting things coming out here, though. Some interesting news to say at the very least. I believe his name is Kevin Vong, and he's quite frankly tired of all the bullshit happening, like many of us are. Got a couple videos to go over here before we get into the proceedings, but let's get into this.
I think it's important to point out that if this happened in the United States, there would be a special prosecutor appointed immediately. And this government is dragging it out. Why? Reluctance is abetting. What's the point of having the law? Why are we protecting individuals who are harming our country, our democracy, our people, and our interests?
Cheers to that.
And this government needs to tell us why. Because frankly, I'm fed up with having to pay the price for it. Because being a doormat is not a policy. And it's time to step up and defend our democracy.
This guy is speaking some very wise words here that the Liberal government should probably be following suit with. Yes, why are we defending people that are meddling in our elections, that are interfering in our government? Why are we allowing this to happen? Taking the necessary steps to either put these people in some sort of legal action or trouble, or simply remove them from our country. We have another video. Independent MP Kevin Vong is demanding all of the parliamentarians named in the NSI COP report as foreign collaborators be revealed. Let's take a look.
Good morning. Canada's democracy has been under attack by authoritarian regimes. Chief among them is the People's Republic of China. And I'm joined today by leading experts on foreign interference. Sam Cooper, investigative journalist and author of Willful Blindness, 3rd edition. Dr. Charles Burton, senior fellow at Synopsis. And Michelle Junot-Katsuya, former Asia-Pacific desk chief at CSIS, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. We're here today to address a question that all Canadians have been asking. Who are the parliamentarians who have been identified in a confidential report by the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians? In their special report, paragraph 164 states that NSICOP has, quote, seen troubling intelligence that some parliamentarians are, in the words of the intelligence services, semi-witting or witting participants in the efforts of foreign states to interfere in our politics, end quote. How can Canada have an election if Canadians don't know whether the people they're voting for has their best interests at heart or if they're serving a foreign master? Nearly every opposition party leader has called for the names of the parliamentarians identified in the NSICOP report, but the Trudeau government refuses to do so. This plays directly into the hands of authoritarians. Until those names are identified, a cloud of suspicion hangs over all parliamentarians, but especially those of Chinese heritage. It's time for the government to come clean to Canadians and defend our democracy.
This is the same Liberal government that continues to point the finger at Pierre Poilievre, asking him to get his security clearance. Why hasn't he gotten his security clearance yet? It's the only thing they want to talk about when it comes to this foreign interference case. But we are looking at the same Liberal government that has allowed all of this to happen. We have seen MPs all across the board, Conservative, Bloc, NDP, have now called out the Liberal government, now even the Independent, people who have left the Liberal Party, calling out the Liberals. We need these names. We need action to be taken. Trudeau continues to fail in every single facet. It's time for the Trudeau government to come clean to Canadians and defend our democracy from foreign interference. This is another video from Kevin Vong. No one is above the law. Why won't Justin Trudeau release the names of the parliamentarians guilty of selling out for political and financial benefit?
Speaker, the Prime Minister once said that he thought NSICOP was well suited to examine foreign interference in Canada's democracy and democratic institutions. But apparently, not anymore. Why the change? Was it an NSICOP report that shed some redacted light on the willing involvement of Liberals guilty of seeking political and financial benefit? Does the Prime Minister still feel that, quote, Canadians need to have faith in their institutions and deserve answers and transparency, end quote? Or has his party's Beijing masters called for a reversal?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, our colleague should be careful before he simply makes up stuff in question period and asserts things that he knows are absolutely false. He knows very well, Mr. Speaker, that our government created for the first time ever a committee of parliamentarians to oversee the work of our security agencies. We think it's important for parliamentarians from every political party and the other place to do this important work. We've acted on their recommendations. We thank them for this important contribution to the fight against foreign interference and to a series of other measures important for assuring the national security of all Canadians.
Which you have failed to do. This was back in June.
Speaker, the Prime Minister.
This is back in June. So this just further shows that the Liberal government hasn't taken any steps. Months ago, being called out on this. Months ago, asking, what steps are you going to take to try and avoid these situations? Well, clearly, you've taken no steps at all.
Alors?
Order.
Colleagues?
Oral questions. Questions.
Question period!
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A year ago, the Prime Minister copy and pasted my idea of eliminating GST on building of new homes. But that's the only thing he did because it has just driven up costs. Yesterday, I proposed eliminating GST on houses under $1 million, and the housing advisor of the PM, Mr. Mike Moffat, said that it's the most audacious proposal for middle-class housing ever proposed by a political party. Will he accept my idea? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, when the Leader of the Opposition was the Minister of Housing for Stephen Harper, he failed in his job. He only built 6 affordable housing units across the country. Now he's proposing a program that will cut transfers to municipalities and investments that we're making in infrastructure to build more houses across the country. It's cuts to programs and services that Canadians are counting on, that the Conservatives are offering, and we are investing to build homes across the country for Canadians.
I can't believe Trudeau actually showed up.
For the opposition, we're proposing to eliminate the GST on houses under $1 million. And this will save $25,000 on the purchase of a home, an average home in Quebec. That's a reduction of $1,000, $300 on mortgages per year. Will the PM send this money to his program? And even his minister saying his program is not building homes. Will he accept my program to cut bureaucracy and taxes to build
Today's question
new
period
homes?
will be so important it was put in
Prime Minister,
JT's itinerary.
Mr.
Usually
Speaker,
not
what
the case.
The Conservative leader wants to cut is the $900 million that we're sending to Quebec for the Housing Accelerator Fund to build homes across Quebec and the country. He wants to cut and remove $900 million that we're sending to Quebec to build more homes, to solve the challenges that Quebecers, and particularly young Quebecers, are facing. His solution isn't one because it always involves cuts to services and investments in programs that Canadians need. It's not cuts and austerity that Quebecers want. They want investment in a better world. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Took my idea last year to remove GST off rental housing construction. It's the only thing he's done right because, of course, after 9 years, he's doubled housing costs. So yesterday, I came up with another common sense idea. Let me quote his housing advisor, Mike Moffat. The Conservative leaders plan to eliminate the GST for newly constructed homes selling for under $1 million is the boldest middle-class housing proposal released to date from any federal political party. Will he accept my common sense idea?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Over the decades, Canadians learned the hard way. With Conservative promises, you always have to check the fine print. And the fine print on this one is they're going to cut the investments we're making across the country, working with municipalities to cut red tape, to invest in more housing, to invest in more affordable homes, to accelerate permitting and create densification. He's going to cut the services and programs and investments that Canadians are counting on to solve this housing crisis. That's all he offers, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, cuts to the programs and supports that Canadians need, whether it's the housing accelerator or housing and infrastructure investments. He's going to build slow homes.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Named the two bureaucracies I'll get rid of. One is ironically named the Housing Infrastructure Fund, $5 billion. How many houses is it built? Zero. How many pieces of infrastructure? Zero. Can you even apply for money for it? No. It's just for bureaucrats. Then there's the Housing Accelerator Fund, which his own Liberal housing minister says the fund doesn't go towards the cost of building houses. It doesn't actually lead to the construction of specific homes. The Housing Accelerator Fund doesn't actually directly build homes. So why not take the money, axe the tax, and build the homes?
Hey! Actual evidence, actual info.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition is intending to cut the Housing Accelerator Fund, which is all about
Yes, you just said that.
densification across our communities, accelerating the permitting and cutting red tape, using more public lands, creating more opportunities for public land to be used for the creation of affordable homes. It's about changing the way homes get built so they get built faster and more accessibly for Canadians. He's about cutting the programs and the services that Canadians rely on. That's what Canadians have learned about Conservative promises. Got to look at the fine print, and the fine print is cuts to things Canadians need.
That's right.
I will agree, it's a bit weird that people do treat him as like a god figure.
Canadians
I will agree.
pay, Mr. Speaker. We will axe the tax, the sales tax on new homes under $1 million, saving up to $50,000 on a new home or $2,700 in lower mortgage payments every single year. By contrast, in the last 3 years, the number of young people who have ownership of a home today has fallen by half under this Prime Minister and his incompetent housing minister. So why won't he cut the bureaucracy, axe the tax, and build the home?
I think people look at him like that, though, because he speaks the way he does when you compare him to Trudeau.
Canadians have learned when Conservatives make promises, you've got to check the fine print. And the fine print on this one is cutting programs that are investing in building new homes right across the country, working with municipalities and delivering the homes that Canadians, particularly young Canadians, need. Now, if the Leader of the Opposition actually cared about young Canadians, he wouldn't be standing against the fact that we're asking wealthier Canadians to pay a little more in taxes to help young Canadians with buying a home, with creating a future, with creating the jobs that they need. We're going to continue to invest in young people for intergenerational fairness while he gives tax breaks to wealthiest.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, all the parties in this House supported at various stages different measures. One, to help 1 million retirees in Quebec and across the country, and others to support farmers. We gave the government 5 weeks, and then the government said no. I'm wondering if the Prime Minister is saying that our proposal is bad because they voted in favour of it. And why does he not ask the relevance of the question to Quebecers with regard to his election? The Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, the Bloc leader knows full well that in terms of protecting our farmers, we're moving forward and we're here to protect supply management. We're here to ensure that the Senate will adopt this legislation or an equivalent bill because we'll always be here to protect our farmers. In terms of our seniors, we'll also always be here to protect them, whether it's in terms of dental care that has now been delivered to almost 1 million Canadians, particularly seniors. And we're also here to increase the GIS and extend OAS for older seniors. We're always going to be here for.
That's very true, Sean. There is so much going on that it's hard to keep up, and the average person just simply doesn't care enough or doesn't have the time to.
Get rid of the government.
And it's more insane because you can't trust the people that are sitting in these seats. And when you have just a constant flow of things happening and you can't keep up, they are able to get away with so much. They are able to slip under the radar, sweep things into the rug, keep the skeletons in the closet, if you will.